All right, it's working. It's finally working.
Nice. Nice.
Uh, that was a nightmare. All right. Well, folks, welcome to Maple Butter Caramel. This is I'm Bone Shackles, and this is D Rock. He's drinking his
Daddy
tea.
D
I
Rock.
see. What are you drinking?
Just some peppermint tea.
Uh,
It's good for the voice.
I think you're better than me. So tonight we are starting. This is the first episode of our show, Maple Butter Caramel. On this show, we talk about movies, TV shows, all kinds of stuff. But those are new. I'm usually a game streamer, but anybody who knows me knows that I love movies. So me and D-Rock here, we're trying to do a show for a while. It originally was audio only, but it just
Yes.
kept not working. And eventually we're just like, you know what? We're going to do a live show just once a week. It fits better for us. And I already had a channel, and I figured let's just use my channel. And, well, cheers, dudes. Episode 1.
One thing led to another, and now we're here.
So, what are we doing, D-Rock? What are we starting our show with?
So there's, I guess, two central topics for the night. The first topic we wanted to talk about, and sort of recap, give our thoughts on Spider-Man: No Way Home, and then the next topic would be a tier list for Phase One of the MCU, the Marvel
Yes.
Cinematic Universe.
So we decided we're gonna tier list the MCU. We're not gonna get into Phase 4 because it's obviously not done yet. But we figured we got a whole saga. Let's tier list it because we never really, him and I have never really talked about the MCU and what we think about each movie.
That's
So
true.
tonight we're just gonna go through it. So first off, spoiler alert: we are gonna spoil Spider-Man. So if you haven't seen
Yeah.
it, definitely just watch this later. This will be uploaded to our YouTube. Plus, it's gonna be on this Twitch as a VOD. But definitely don't watch if you don't want it spoiled. I'm gonna let you go first. What did you think of No Way Home?
Okay. I really liked it. Think it was I think it's kind of the first big event movie in a long time. And I think it did live up to the hype. It's not without its problems, but I think the pros do outweigh the cons. And it's definitely a movie you cannot talk about without spoiling it. Since it's, that's a big part of the movie and the plot. But I think overall it's really solid, and I really want to rewatch it in a theater. It was kind of cool having that experience again of being in a theater with a big crowd, and so I think that kind of contributed to everyone's like hype factor and enjoyment
When
of the
did
movie.
you
I know
remind me? When did you see it?
I saw it the night of the premiere.
So you went like the Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night.
I did the same, and it was a really fun experience. It was the first time in a while that we had that kind of movie theater experience. What was the last big release from Marvel or anyone?
Um,
Big. Maybe
I don't know.
Maybe the last Spider-Man.
It might be the last Spider-Man.
What year did that come out? 2018. It's been at least 2 years since we've had a real big movie, and yeah, it was a really fun experience. So going in like watching the trailers, I did not give a crap. I really did not care about this movie. I didn't like Far From Home, and I felt like the
I
trailers.
thought Far From Home was okay, but
I hated it, but I felt like the trailers for No Way Home were very like. What's the right word? They're very corporate. Like, oh, here's a bunch of things you know.
Yeah,
who cares?
yeah,
Like, I
that's
did
fair.
not care. But going in, it the trailers are great because they're a complete lie. Like, the movie is not at all what the trailers show, and I mean that in a very good way. It's a lot more like the whole plot with him and the villains is not at all what I thought it was going to be. Yes, there were a lot of
Yeah.
dumb movie quotes that we did not need. Like, yes, I've seen the original Spider-Man. I don't need Osborn to say I'm something of a scientist myself. I don't need that. But like,
it was
overall,
going to be
like,
there. It was inevitable.
yeah. Overall, what they did with it, I really liked. I will say, out of the 3 MCU Spider-Man movies, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I think it's a close match against Homecoming for me. I think this one might be slightly better. Homecoming does some things better. This one does other things better than Homecoming.
Homecoming
But
definitely is good.
I guess I would just say overall the scale and scope of this one is so much bigger than Homecoming. Homecoming is a very scaled down Spider-Man story, getting rid of all the sort of Tony Stark elements, but the central core of that story is pretty small. Where this is a lot more grandiose in scope. So like the first one maybe feels a little bit more focused, whereas this one maybe feels a little bit more has more of like a consistent tone and an atmosphere compared to Homecoming. So they both kind of have their strengths and weaknesses. But I think this one was like the first one where like you saw Peter Parker becoming more self-reliant. And
That's what I was gonna say. So for me, out of the three, this is the most Spider-Man feeling one. And it's the first one that actually felt like a Spider-Man movie. Because Homecoming's really good, but in a lot of ways, it's kind of just an Iron Man movie, but with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And this one was the first time where I really felt like the MCU figured out how to actually do Spider-Man.
Yeah, I would agree.
And even though the stakes were bigger, they were more like personal for Peter. And I felt like that worked for me.
Yeah, I would
agree. It didn't
agree.
feel like him piggybacking on anything else. It felt like he was the main character, and it was a Spider-Man story. And it
So that was a big
captured that
complaint I had.
Spider-Man feel,
Yeah, I agree. And kind of leaning into what you were saying, that's a big problem I had with Homecoming was how reliant that movie was on Tony Stark and Tony Stark's technology and everything else. That was like the weakest aspect of that to me because it's like the more that Peter Parker's suit can do, the less special that he kind of is as
I
an
completely
individual.
agree 100%. That was my problem with Homecoming, and even more so Far From Home.
Yeah.
Like, I had this argument with someone. They were like, "Oh, I like the comics later where he has like all the tech and stuff," and I'm like, "No, I don't like that because it makes him less interesting."
Yeah, don't either.
Like,
Yeah,
Peter Parker,
he's not
he's
Batman,
super
man.
intelligent. He's good with tech, but as soon as you do that, he's just Iron Man. It's not interesting. What makes Peter interesting is he's supposed to be like an every kid,
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of why people gravitate towards Spider-Man is because he and I'm gonna kind of harken back to like Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi. I mean, he's facing everyday problems. He's
a pizza
just finished high
delivery boy in that
school.
one.
Yeah, he's
worried about
starting
college. And
He's dating a girl, trying to date a girl. He's like overwhelmed with trying to balance real everyday average life with his superhero persona. And that's part of why that movie works so well. And then I would say that's part of what makes this new one work so well, is because it also kind of leans into some of those themes where, Peter suddenly, I guess, spoiler, at the very beginning of the movie, and it's in the trailers too, so it's not really that much of a spoiler, is, his identity has been revealed to the world, and he just kind of wanted this normal existence, like the separation between Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and now that's been eroded. And he has to kind of deal with the fallout of that situation, and that's sort of the inciting incident of this movie. Was the end of Far From Home, is when J.K. Simmons, aka Alex Jones, like Bill O'Reilly,
Alex
sort of,
J. Jonah Jameson.
yeah, kind of unveils his identity to the world. And how did he do that? Was it Mysterio found out
Mysterio,
who he
yeah.
was? Okay, that's what I thought. I couldn't quite remember because it's been a couple years. I've only seen Far From Home once in the theaters, so couldn't quite remember. But yeah, that's kind of what propels the plot. Is, he's now in the situation where everyone knows who he is. It's ruining his life. It's ruining his friend's life, his family's life, and he. People have probably seen the trailer. He goes to Doctor Strange, kind of begging him to undo the situation, and then calamity ensues from Doctor Strange's intervention.
Oops, I just did it on the OBS. Sorry. But yes, I heard everything you said. So going into this one, how'd you feel about Doctor Strange being in it and their kind of relationship?
I part of me liked it, and then part of me felt like maybe it was a little bit too convenient. But also, like, well, how are you going to introduce a multiverse concept you know,
Into a
into a
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
movie, yeah.
movie without a character like Doctor Strange in the MCU? So I'm okay with it. I did like kind of their banter. You know, I know a lot of it was cut into the trailer and stuff, where it's like, hey, you know, we saved half the universe together. You don't have to call me Mr. Strange and all that kind of stuff. It was nice to see those characters interact because they really don't interact at all in the other MCU films. So I liked that aspect of it, and I think it was a clever way, convenient, but still a clever way to sort of bring in that multiverse element. And I guess the only complaint I would have is that it seemed kind of out of character for Doctor Strange to intervene to that degree, because I feel like in the other, I guess the original Doctor Strange film and the other MCU films that he's appeared in, he's kind of treated, you know, his magic and his abilities as hallowed ground and things not to be tampered with by other people. So he was a little bit like flippant about, hey, yeah, let's just fucking try this and see if it works.
Yeah, I guess that is a fair criticism.
But I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it worked okay for this. Hey,
what did you think about
Doggy.
that dynamic? Was there a dog?
I liked it a lot. I really love Doctor Strange. I think he's one of my favorite MCU characters.
Yeah, I like him a lot too.
And I thought that I thought there was a good chemistry between him and Tom Holland. I'd say acting-wise, I think this is my favorite film for Tom Holland. I think he really actually did a good job.
Agreed.
And just, I thought the chemistry between him and Benedict Cumberbatch was really good. And obviously, it's based on a comic where Mephisto is the character instead of Doctor Strange. And I like it more.
Yeah.
I like this adaptation a lot more because the original comic is terrible. For those who are watching Reddit, it's so bad.
I had heard people see. This is like another thing worth pointing out is Bone Shackles. You're very familiar with the comic book lore and the source material. I'm less familiar with that. I'm aware of a lot of it, but I haven't read into it as much. But it's one thing I'd heard people talk about is that they speculated that there was going to be a twist where it was Mephisto. Is it Mephisto or Mephisto? How do you say it? Mephisto was impersonating Doctor Strange, and that was going to be like a twist in the movie. I'm glad that they didn't do that. That would have been really dumb. Too much going on. Yeah, I wouldn't have liked that either.
And way too much going on. We don't need more villains.
There's already a lot going on, yeah. So, yeah, I like the direction they went with it, too. Like I said, even if it is somewhat out of character for Doctor Strange, you know, fuck it. It worked for the movie, and it was, you know, it made the movie, I guess, a little bit more... It did a good job at fleshing out Doctor Strange, his the other side to his character, because we typically see him as like being this kind of stoic, sort of stilted figure, and to see him a little bit more loose, I think was needed and interesting.
So, friend of the channel, Shanko Doggy says, not gonna lie, this Marvel movie got me the closest to crying. Let's get into that, because there's some big plot things that happen in this film that I wasn't expecting. And I kind of got to give props to the balls of the script of this film, because it did some stuff that I wasn't expecting an MCU Spider-Man movie to do, ever.
Yeah, I would agree.
We'll start with, how do you feel about the execution of, spoilers, we already said it 5 times, the execution of Garfield and Maguire's Spider-Mans in this?
I was pleasantly surprised by how well it was handled. Everyone knew that was going to be in the movie for the most part. If you're kind of paying attention to like the cinemasphere, I think everyone kind of knew that was going to happen. I was skeptical.
I think it was more of, you're an idiot if you don't do it. Like, it's the most obvious thing to do from a movie standpoint, that if you don't do it, everyone would just be disappointed. So it's like you're obligated to do it.
Well, especially after that first trailer came out and it had, you know, Doc Ock.
Yeah.
From
You're gonna have the
2
villains, but not them. Yeah.
But see, I thought, sure, they're going to be in it, but it's going to be like a quick cameo at the end. You know, the climax of the movie, they're going to come in through like a wormhole and like help him, and and leave. But no, they
Yeah,
were
or
a huge
even
part
like
of the plot.
yeah, they're in what, over a third of the
Third
movie,
of the movie, yeah, at least a third of the movie.
and it develops their characters as well. Like they weren't just cameos; they were cast members of the movie.
It kind of redeems their characters in some ways, to be honest. Like some of the shortcomings of the Amazing Spider-Man movies are kind of redeemed in this movie through Andrew Garfield's portrayal of Spider-Man in No Way Home. This was like my favorite performance of him as Spider-Man was in this movie, which I didn't expect at all.
Yeah,
he
and
kind of stole the movie.
I don't like Garfield, and I don't like those movies, but I actually did.
Me
like
neither.
him in this.
That's how I felt.
He was
too.
okay when he was, with the superior Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire is my favorite. Just gonna put it out
mine
there.
too.
He was
Mine
great.
too.
He was so awkward, and just strange.
Andrew
I
Garfield's
really
banter
loved-
with him.
Yes, they were funny. What did you call him? The youth
He's like, "Are you
pastor
gonna
or
dress like a
whatever?"
youth pastor the whole time?"
That was funny. I really liked. I gotta say, going back to what you mentioned about villains, I think this is Willem Dafoe's best Osborn acting job of all time.
Yeah,
Oh my god,
They went interesting.
he's so good at this
direction
movie.
with it. Yeah,
Like, he's
I didn't
really good at
expect
this
them.
movie.
They played up like the kind of the mental health sort of split personality angle.
He was
to a
already
degree that I didn't
terrifying in the
expect.
original. He's way scarier in this movie.
Yeah, he's just kind of a. Well, he modulates from being really sympathetic to being, a murderer, and you can't tell, whether he's being manipulative, whether it's genuine, whether it's maybe some bit of both. It's hard to tell if it's the two sides of him actually combating with each other, or if it's a ploy. You don't really ever necessarily know.
I think the arc that was
That's
the
what makes
most
it interesting.
was Otto Octavius's.
Yeah,
I
like
really,
that
really
too.
liked his character in this one, and I thought Alfred Molina was fantastic, as he always is.
Well, a big concern I had was, because at the end of Spider-Man 2, which aside is the best Spider-Man movie, if not one of the best superhero movies, at the end of that movie he has kind of a redemption. And so I was like, well, how is he going to be a villain in this if he's kind of redeemed, in that movie? That seems kind of odd, but they give him, I guess, another redemption arc in this movie, and he ends up kind of being the foil to the Sinister Six, in that he is kind of aligned with Peter by the end, or the Peters by the end, and trying to help them. So it's like his character still gets that arc. That arc is still resolved. So it's like they really thought about things like that. I think sloppier, screenwriters and sloppier directors would have just brushed under the rug and ignored. But you can tell they took a lot of care and attention to detail to those original movies, because they know how passionate people are about them. And that was, like you said, that's part of what made his arc so interesting, is that it felt like he was this formidable villain, but at the end of the day, he still got that redemption arc that he had in his original film. So it all kind of came full circle in that way, and I didn't expect that.
I didn't expect that, and I guess even bigger spoilers going into what Shanko Daki said about crying. Definitely did not expect the May death at all. That came out.
No,
of
I didn't
nowhere.
either.
And I thought
I didn't either.
it's like they did a secret origin movie without doing an origin movie,
Yeah.
and it really worked.
Yeah, they really did. And I liked the reversal where she was the one that delivered the line, with great power comes great responsibility. Didn't expect that. That was a nice little callback. Funny story about that part, actually. I went to the bathroom before the movie, but I was sitting in the movie and I had to pee so bad. And I was trying to hold it, but I was like, I can't. And so I had to race out of my chair
Oh no.
in the middle of all these people, and I was ducking so I wasn't blocking people, trying to pay attention to what was going on. It was right at the beginning of that battle before she gets killed. And I went and peed as quickly as I possibly could, and I ran back in right as she gets impaled and falls to the ground. So I was like, oh my god, that was the most perfectly timed bathroom break ever. I missed the chunk of the action, but I did not miss the pivotal moment of her dying. I was walking into the theater right before that happened. So, but yeah, I didn't expect that to carry like so much weight. And it's interesting because going forward, and we'll kind of get more into this part later.
Well, I
he
appreciate
doesn't
how
have that guardian.
how dark the end of the second act gets. Because a good film, the end of the second act, your character should be in the worst spot. And this movie is not afraid to put our main cast in like a horrible spot. And it makes the third act way more like satisfying, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I guess kind of tying into that, her death and the way that they integrate Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire into the aftermath of that, and how Tom Holland handles it was like very, very well written, and also something I didn't expect.
Well, that was interesting that he was made a better Spider-Man by other Spider-Mans.
Exactly.
I thought that was a good touch.
They kind of mentored each other in different ways. Let's kind of talk more about that, the dynamic between those three, because that was kind of like the core of the film and kind of what everyone was wanting to see going into the movie. They did such like a great job with their banter. There's a part where like they're in a lab together, and Tobey Maguire has like the, I guess, biological web shooters just comes from his arm, and he doesn't have any tech, and he slings this web at one point, and they're all like, "How did you do that? Did that just come from your arm?" And he's like, "Yeah, that doesn't happen for you guys." And then Andrew Garfield talks about, "No, I have to always in the lab make more web and put it in these cows, and it's really inconvenient and messy." And just cute stuff like that. That was just like
my only
fun.
complaint is sometimes it got a little too meta.
Yeah,
like about the whole because people used to complain, "Oh, why doesn't he have web shooters and Tobey Maguire?" It was a little too meta, as was my back, like cracking his back.
I thought that was funny.
It was funny, but it's a little too meta.
Yeah, but the movie itself is pretty meta. You know what I mean? Just like the concept of it is pretty meta.
Overall, that all worked for me. The only thing that didn't work for me is they need to be careful. This movie and Endgame, they need to be careful about their plot holes, because this movie makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, there's some plot holes.
Like, they don't even try to explain, like, so at the end, did they put the villains back where they came from, but they're somehow alive? But how can they be alive? And also, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, he's from post-Spider-Man 3. So those characters are already all dead. So how do they get put back? And then, like...
I could be misunderstanding, but I guess I was under the impression they were put back into like a universe or timeline where they were rehabilitated, the ones that wanted to be, and then the ones that were evil. Like,
but that wouldn't work either, because you gotta put them back. They gotta be careful with that, because it's gonna get to a point where the audience just doesn't care, because none of it makes any sense.
Yeah, it made enough sense to where I was fine with it. But you're right. If you start to dissect it, it's a little bit sloppy. But there was so much going on that I was kind of. It
didn't work for me for the whole film. The entire film I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't. And the problem is, eventually, most audiences are not going to care about the stakes, because they'll just be confused about what those stakes are.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair criticism for sure. I think the one major criticism I had about it was a lot of plot conveniences and like convenient technology that's not like set up. Like there's one part where they have to like synthesize a serum to try to
it's a Marvel movie.
To try to like turn
serum in it.
Yeah, to turn Green Goblin and Doc Ock, and like it's like they're at a piece apart, and Peter's like, "Oh, I just conveniently have this machine that can make anything we need to make." And can't maybe set that up like a little bit more, like
that was
anything
dumb. And it also fit into my criticism of the first two, of Tony Stark equipment solving everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? It's like It's like the writers just have to put a jab in at me, just one.
Yeah, and I get that there's so much going on and it's a lot to juggle, but like you can't take maybe 10 seconds to set it up a little bit more than not at all. Like
Yeah, and that's another thing that Marvel is starting to suffer from a bit. That they need to keep in check.
And I'm gonna also use that as a segue to talk about Daredevil and how he was introduced into the MCU.
See,
in this
I loved
movie.
it, but that was way too meta. Because in the context of the film, he shouldn't have any importance. He's just a lawyer that they've never heard of. But like, they shoot it in a way that's way too meta.
That wasn't handled well.
No, it was awesome to have him, and I'm glad it's a confirmation that he exists in this universe.
Yeah,
but it was way too meta.
I would have preferred it. I agree. It is too meta. I think I would have preferred almost a post-credit scene if they really had to do it. I'm happy that he's, because I love that character and I love Charlie Cox's portrayal of him. But like,
agreed.
In the movie, he just appears. It's just like, oh, I guess we need a lawyer. Cut to next scene. Oh, he's there. I would have preferred like a scene where like they're calling, trying to get legal representation. No one wants to touch it. It's too big of a case. They think Peter Parker's a murderer.
Yeah, a little more.
And then their phone rings.
Organic.
And then it's
lead
like,
and
nothing.
But it was too meta. It was too dramatic. I understand. Like the movie's 2 hours and 40 something minutes or something, 2.5. Like you can't have everything. But
yeah, but 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
I agree.
10-second scene.
I agree.
Anything is better than not at all. Yeah.
A little too meta. I guess we have. The problem that's the problem with Marvel is, it's one of many necessary evils for managing a cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Because you can't just you gotta put him in somewhere, and like it's a business, and that's my problem so far with the MCU Phase 4 is I love it, but it's starting to show that corporate sheen a little too much.
It's starting to get a little bit too big for its britches. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's starting to get pretty full, and
there's a lot of characters.
Yeah. I which they're not going to, but I kind of wish they scaled it back. Thought of like a creative way to scale things back for a while, and then kind of build back up.
I think what they're doing is segmenting it, where they're not going to have an Infinity Saga level thing for a while. They're just going to have these groups of characters, and they're all going to do their own thing. And sometimes they'll meet up, sometimes they won't, but it'll be very segmented.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
which could work. I mean, we might as well try something else because I don't want 10 years of the same thing. I want something different. But
I agree.
We'll have to see. Phase 4 is still young. We'll have to really see.
Yeah, it's definitely too early to make determine whether or not they're going in the right direction. I think the fact that now things are split between like episodic television versus the films is interesting in and of itself.
Yeah. And overall, the shows have been good, except for What If. What If is terrible.
Yeah.
But
I haven't watched it yet.
Unfortunately, it's canon, so you have to. But it's really bad.
No. But is it canon if like it's all these like alternate what would have happened? Like,
have you watched Loki?
Yeah, but I mean, there's also some like canonical elements to that show.
So,
like, there's an overarching timeline.
What If takes place right after Loki. When he makes spoilers. There's already spoilers. I said this multiple times. At the end of Loki, when he makes the multiverse, that's What If. What If is them saying, "All right, let's take a look at that multiverse." They're all canon. It's canon, and also one of the episodes of What If directly ties into the post-credit scene of Spider-Man. So.
Okay, interesting.
And the problem is you're now forced to watch garbage so that you can stay. And that's another issue. Is it's gonna get to the point where it's like I gotta watch a lot just to keep. The problem is
it's
the MCU is making all the mistakes that the comics make. Of having 800 issues, so many plot threads, reboots, and hopefully they'll figure it out. But it's not dour. They've been making great content. Hawkeye is excellent. Loki is amazing. WandaVision's good.
I've not watched Hawkeye yet, and I've heard like surprisingly good things. Like basically I think everyone had kind of low expectations for it, and it's kind of surprised everyone. So maybe I need to check it out.
What I'll say about Hawkeye is it's not the best MCU show, but it's the most consistent. Every episode is good. There's not a bad episode in it, and it doesn't linger, it doesn't meander. It's just
the thing that annoyed me.
A movie that's in 8 parts, whatever. 6 or whatever.
I think the thing that annoyed me was the trailer where it was like that framing device, like I gotta get home in time for Christmas, and then like rolled my eyes like.
So here's the deal. That is part of the story, but it's really well done. It's actually quite
Okay.
touching. And they develop Hawkeye as a character way more than the movies ever did.
Speaking of touching, I'm gonna use that as a segue. Someone talked about how this movie was like a tearjerker at parts.
I would say so.
When
I'm dead inside.
when Andrew Garfield, there's a part where MJ he references earlier in the film, after Andy dies, they're kind of consoling Tom Holland, and Tobey Maguire says, "For me, it was my Uncle Ben who died. He died in my arms. It was indirectly my fault." And then Andrew Garfield says, "For me, it was my girlfriend Gwen. I couldn't save her, and she died." And then later on, there's a part, at the climax of the film when MJ is thrown off the tower. She's falling to her death, and Andrew Garfield's the one that rushes in and saves her. And he's like, "Are you okay?"
I liked that
And
a lot.
he sets her down, and he tears up, and I'm like, that's such a well-earned, like well-set-up moment.
The minute they started setting it up, I rolled my eyes thinking, "Oh, this is going to be so corny," but I know they stuck the landing. They did a good job with that.
Yeah.
That little arc. So I guess all this phase talk is probably a good segue to head straight into the tier listing.
Yeah.
I think we've said as much as we can about Spider-Man without spoiling too much, because I definitely don't want to say too much. I recommend the film. I assume you do. I think it's very good.
I want to see it again.
I do too. So all right, let's head into tier listing. Let me make sure that's working. It was working, but you know how Twitch is.
Pull up the tier list I previously made. I'm getting Discord notifications. Is that from you? Or is it just
Maybe.
Okay. I don't have any messages.
It should have a presentation.
I guess it's just me.
There we go. That's the website I used. Presentation mode. Riveting. This is very riveting. Alright, hold on, you guys. I'll make sure my boy can see this. Alright, make sure to do what we did last night where you joined the... There we go. Alright. Wish us luck, boys. Oh no. I knew this was gonna happen. This
What
is later in
happened?
the first episode, you guys. Hold on. Oh no. Why isn't it showing? Ugh. Well, first episode.
What happened?
It didn't save like any of my framing. Hold on. It just completely screwed the pooch on me.
No, it's okay. These tech issues are to be expected the first couple times. Performance anxiety,
Yeah, how it be, fam. All right, let's try this
I'm
again.
pulling up my personal that I need.
I don't
See
know what
how
it's
it
doing right
stacks
now.
up.
Oh, there we go. Well, folks at home, sorry. We had this all ready to go, and it decided to not save anything I did. It literally, I saved all of this.
It's all good. It happens.
There we go. All right. This is riveting television. Alright, this is good enough for now. Alright, so let's get straight into it. We're just gonna do release order. We're not gonna get fancy with any chronological or crap like that, which wouldn't work anyway because they crossed phases chronologically.
Yeah. We'll just do release order. That's what I kind of figured we'd do anyway.
Let me double check my release order. I think I'm correct on what it is. All right, so it is Iron Man then. All right, so start with Iron Man.
All right.
So Iron Man for me is a near perfect movie. It only has one big flaw. I'm gonna let you go first.
I am. So, do you want me to go ahead and rank it? Because I agree with you. I really
I'd say
love the
give
first
your
Iron Man
thoughts
movie.
first, and then
Then we'll rank it.
we'll compromise on a ranking.
Okay. Yeah. No, I really do love that first Iron Man movie. And I don't know if this is going ahead or not, but it is probably my favorite of Phase One of the MCU. I remember when that movie came out, I saw it in theaters. No expectations really. I was about to start high school at the time. It was the summer between middle school and high school, and um, I knew very little about that character of Iron Man. I was vaguely familiar with him. But then that movie came out, and I remember going to see it, and it kind of blew my mind and being so won over
Oh yeah.
um, by Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, and being kind of won over by that character in general. I was like, wow, now Iron Man's one of my favorite superheroes. This guy is awesome. At the time, that movie was visually groundbreaking. I think it holds up pretty well today. Um, I really love that movie. I think it is a near perfect movie. It's pretty simple, and there's some criticisms I've heard people levy against it since it was released, which I think are kind of unfair. Um, they say, well, it suffers from the typical, Marvel superhero trope where the bad guy is a bigger version of the good guy, and it's like, well, yeah, but this is the movie that kind of established that trope within the MCU. It was kind of the first one. Um, so I think that's not movie breaking. I think it's fine, and I think that's you're more familiar with the comics than I am. But isn't that pretty much how it is in the comics? Is the first
Yeah.
villain is
So
Obadiah Stane in a bigger suit?
so the problem I have with um hold on, we might have a technical problem. You're
Okay.
watching the Twitch stream right now, right? Or have it open so you can kind of see it. I sent you a link.
Yeah, I do.
Can you look at it and tell me that the tier list is coming up correctly?
Yeah, let me make sure.
Because every time I cut to OBS, it's just a gray thing instead of a tier list.
Okay, let me see. Yeah, it's just a gray box right now.
I don't know why it's doing that.
It was working a second ago.
Yeah, every time I try and look at it, it does it. Hold on, you guys. We're gonna do this instead.
Marvel, they don't want us talking about their movies. They're sabotaging the stream. Disney doesn't like any criticism whatsoever. Oh, it popped up. I saw it.
All right, it should be good now. I think I fixed it.
Nah, it went away now. It popped up for a second, then went away immediately.
I don't know.
Now
what
it's
to do.
there. Now it's there. It's there right now.
What about now?
Yep, it's there.
If it goes away, tell me immediately. I don't care.
Okay.
I don't care if
Okay.
it's bad showbiz. It's just
Okay.
I want the
I'll
viewers
leave
to be
it.
able to
I'll
see
leave
it.
it open. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
I'll leave it open.
All right. So what?
I was looking at my tier list.
I love Iron Man, but for me the villain
Yes.
is the problem. I find he's not written out at all. Like he really has no character arc, and that does hurt the movie for me. I love it. I think the movie is fun. I think it's energetic. It's funny. Tony Stark is great. I love Jon Favreau as a
Yes.
filmmaker, but
Yes.
I can't put it in S tier because of the villain.
See, I think the villain is fleshed out enough. I think he's fleshed out more than most of the other Marvel villains.
I don't agree. I think he has no
especially in
character arc
Phase 1.
besides I'm a bad guy.
Well, I disagree. I think he kind of lived in Tony's father's shadow. I think he kind of lived in Tony's shadow. I think he sort of views Tony as like a spoiled brat. I think he feels like maybe he's put in more work and time than Tony has, and I think that kind of plays into his betrayal of Tony. I think that kind of plays into why he sort of makes these underhanded deals on the side with Tony's father's company.
See, I think
it's almost
I
like
think those are all reasons why he could do those things, but in the film, all we have are actions. He doesn't really get developed much. Like in the movie, he's just a bad guy capitalist. Like he's not really developed
Uh,
enough.
I don't know. I just don't agree. I think he's developed pretty well, and I think also they developed that chemistry between them pretty well. Like Jeff Bridges and Robert Downey Jr. have an amazing acting
No,
chemistry
I
in this
agree
movie.
on camera they're great, but I just don't feel like Obadiah Stane as a character is very deep.
I wouldn't say he's incredibly deep, but I do think his motivations are fleshed out enough, and him as a character is fleshed out enough to where I don't know. I just don't have the same criticism, I
Can
guess.
we? So I don't think it's S tier. What do you think it is?
I think it's S tier.
Can we compromise on the very top of A?
Yes, we can put it between A and S.
All right, we'll put it A plus, and then obviously we're gonna be reordering stuff as we go through this. I gotta find it though. There it is. We'll
Yeah.
reorder as we do stuff. Hold on, it's definitely not E. All right, top of A. Next is Incredible Hulk. I'm gonna go first on this one, so we'll just take turns going first.
Okay.
This is D tier for me.
Yeah, I'd put it even lower than that. I think this movie
You
sucks
want to
balls.
go E? We'll go bottom
I
of
remember
D.
this movie. I
I
remember
don't
seeing
think
this
it's
movie in the theater when it came out, and
yeah,
I
it's
was
not good.
so bored.
It's
And
not great. Ed
I,
Norton is bad.
yeah, he's not well cast in that
This
role.
is
He's good. He's an amazing actor,
this
but
is an even worse version of this when it comes to bad guy. It's just bad version of good guy.
yeah.
It's
And
bad.
like to me, it's even borderline as to whether or not it's like really MCU canon because there's nothing that happens in this movie that informs the future films
The only thing that
whatsoever.
matters is the post credit scene because it has Tony Stark in it.
Yeah, that's literally it. And I
Yeah,
didn't
we'll
even know that at the time when
we'll
I saw
we'll
the
do
movie.
bottom of D tier. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, it's
If it
pretty
goes
bad.
lower, it goes
Yeah.
lower.
Yeah.
Um, so what's next is it's sad that we don't have more to say about Hulk, but it's just
No, it sucks. Not much
the thing
happens
with
really.
not much happens. Ed Norton, I don't like Ed Norton in the movie at all.
No, I don't like him in
Um,
this role either.
it's one of the most forgettable MCU films, so I guess that's all we have to say about it.
Yeah,
So next
and
up is gonna be Iron Man 2,
also
which I believe
one
is.
quick note
Yeah, go ahead. No,
about
go.
Incredible Hulk. We should mention that Universal owned the rights to that character. So that was like a Universal Pictures production. It wasn't. I guess it
Oh no,
was.
yeah. So what happened with Hulk is it was already shot before the MCU existed, and what they did
Yeah,
is during Iron Man they shot a post-credit scene for it to
yeah,
make it part of the MCU because it came out the
yeah.
same year.
It's kind of like Venom, like in Sony. It's like, yeah, they kind of loosely link it to the MCU, but it's not really. It's kind of a good comparison. Just that was just something I wanted to note before moving on.
Yeah, D minus. We can agree on that.
Yeah, yeah,
So Iron Man 2. This is the black sheep of the list.
yeah. I would agree.
I'm gonna put it C.
Yeah, I would
C
agree.
minus.
That's where I have to.
It's not
That's
bad,
where I have it too.
but it's
Yeah.
so uninteresting.
Well, the thing is, like, it
It
does
feels
some
very
things incredibly
lazy.
well. Some things about it are really strong, and then other things about it are incredibly lazy, and it kind of like modulates between them. Like, I think the heart of the movie is Tony Stark and his relationship with his father,
Hmm.
and that aspect of the movie is really well written and really well done. Um, he has kind of these I won't say flashbacks, but like these recorded video messages from like the 60s or 70s when Tony was a kid, kind of talking to Tony in the future. And throughout the film, you get little snippets of it, but you don't really get the full thing. And then by the end of the film, you see that, despite, really pouring all of his time and attention into his work, at the end of the day, like he says, like the creation he valued most was Tony. And it's like this nice little heartfelt moment between them where he's like trying to live up to the legacy of his father. And but
Yeah,
the problem is like that
it's an
should be the
odd
central
movie.
theme for the movie, and
Yes.
it's not. It's kind of on the side.
Yeah, this
Um,
Iron Man 2 is a very strange movie. It makes
it
some,
is.
it's a movie that makes really bad decisions from a filmmaking standpoint.
Yeah.
Like
We
there's
should
so
also
many things
mention it's the first. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's also the first movie to introduce Black Widow. I guess she's Natasha Romanoff in this movie, but
It
we are
is,
formally
but
introduced to her character.
we are, and it's not a great first impression.
No, it's not. It's not.
So yeah, there's so many things it does wrong that it's a frustrating movie. But
Yeah.
on going back to it, it's much better than I remember. When I first saw it, I hated it. I would put it E tier, D tier. But we won't talk too much about the other phases. But seeing Iron Man 3 made me appreciate Iron Man 2 more.
Interesting. Yeah.
But
I think it's yeah. I think I was pretty indifferent on it when it came out. I don't think I loved it or hated it. I remember I didn't see it in theaters, but I watched it on demand when it came out, and I had it on like one weekend and watched it, and I was like, yeah, that was okay.
I think I've seen every MCU film in theaters.
I've seen most of them in theaters, but not all of them.
I don't
This
think
is
I've
one I
missed a
did not
single
see
one.
in theaters.
I even saw Black Widow in theaters.
Huh. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
So I
didn't see
think
that
I
one
think
in
I have a
theaters.
perfect streak.
Nice. Yeah,
For
I've seen
now.
most of
For
them in
now.
theaters, but not all of them.
So yeah, Iron Man 2, definitely black sheep. Well, maybe not the black sheep of this list, but it's the most puzzling.
Yeah, yeah. It's a mixed bag for sure.
So that brings us to an even more confusing film. And that's Thor. I'm gonna let
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you take the lead on Thor.
So I had never seen Thor. It was the only. It's one of. I think there's only 2 or 3 MCU movies I haven't seen, and the first Thor was one of them. Just didn't interest me at all when it came out. Um, and so I watched it before we did this, and I like kind of predicted where I would put it, and I was like, it's probably gonna be like C. But after watching it, it was. I'm not gonna say it was amazing, but it was better than I expected. Um,
So
I,
Thor is the most confusing of this list. It does so many things really, really well, and it does
Yeah.
other things horribly.
Well, I was surprised by how arrogant and brash and kind of an asshole he was at the beginning of the movie. Because normally
No,
you see
yeah,
Thor as this very
the
sort
best
of
part of Thor is Thor. He has a really good character arc. The worst part are the
Yeah,
side characters.
exactly.
They are nothing. They're the most vanilla,
yeah.
white bread, useless characters.
The
Both-
romance is
Oh,
so
it's bad.
just whatever. I checked out anytime that Natalie Portman was on screen. No offense to Natalie
Yeah.
Portman, but their romance, I thought there was nothing there. I thought it was just like thrown in there and shoehorned in. It didn't really elevate the plot or anything else. I guess it made for some fish out of water stuff, but I would say one thing that surprised me about this movie was like the visual style. I guess I expected it to be kind of like visually flat, but it really wasn't. I mean, the Dutch angles kind of got on my nerves, but
Oh,
there
here's
at
the
least was
deal. This is the only time I'm
Yeah.
going to interject. The visuals of this movie are a two-edged sword. Sometimes it does some great stuff, but the Dutch angles are so annoying.
yeah, they are annoying.
They completely ruined the movie for me.
They're unnecessary. They don't really do anything to make the shots more interesting. They're just kind
So
of
for
there.
me, I want to put Thor C+.
I think that's
What
fair.
do you think
Well,
C-
I don't know.
a-
It's between a B and a C. I think it's better because I think it's better than Iron Man 2.
I agree. No, I agree.
And I think it.
You know
I
what?
think-
Let's do B
I
minus
think
for
it. I
now.
think yeah. I think it surprised me because, like I said, I really wasn't looking forward to watching Thor. I was like, I just need to watch this movie, and then I was like, okay, that was actually better than I expected. It won me over a little bit. It did some things poorly.
Yeah, I think we can agree on a B minus for now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because the next one is going to be tough. I think we're going to disagree on it because I usually disagree
Okay.
with people in this movie. And we're on to Captain America, the First Avenger, the first Captain America film. I'm going to take the lead on this one. I
Go
think this
for
movie
it.
sucks. I don't think this movie is good at all. I think it's corny in a bad way. The acting is bad. The writing's bad. The only thing I love about it is it's one of the few MCU films to be shot on film, so it actually looks really nice sometimes. But
Interesting.
it,
I didn't know
the-
that.
the bad guy is the epitome of I'm a bad guy. He's
Yeah.
he's a nothingness.
See,
I
in my
don't-
head, I compared Obadiah Stane to Red Skull, and just how like there's nothing to Red Skull whatsoever.
Oh no, yeah,
like,
Obadiah Stane
zero.
is better than Red Skull. But
Yeah,
this to me this movie is just so bland, and
yeah.
Like I don't care about anything that happens in it. I force myself to watch it when I do a rewatch because it is important. But like this movie, I just don't care about anything that
I
happens in it. The only thing I like about it is I think Chris Evans is great.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's great, and the chemistry between his character Howard Stark and Peggy Carter is really good, and I enjoy
Yeah,
that stuff. And I do enjoy a lot of the World War II stuff, like the training stuff.
yeah.
But after that, I just don't care about anything that happens in this movie. The minute he gets powers, this movie just is crap.
Yeah, I actually pretty much agree with everything you said. I don't know if I would be as harsh on it, but I remember I didn't see it in theaters when it came out. Um, I actually didn't see it until after I'd already seen Avengers, um, and I remember being like kind of lukewarm on it. I agree with you that it's really cheesy. I remember to me it felt like very rushed. Like a lot of stuff was very glossed over. Like there was like a lot of montages in it and stuff like that that I thought were unnecessary. It felt like more of an obligation than a passion project. It felt like something they had to do to set up the Avengers, and less like something that they actually wanted to do. I appreciated, the setting of it. I think it being set, in the distant past with World War II and the Nazis, and then um, Howard Stark when he's young. I appreciated all that world building. I liked that.
Like
I
I said, I
enjoyed
really
that.
like probably the first half, and then after that, I
Yeah,
just don't care.
no, I would agree. I didn't care about like the main plot of the movie at all. I mean, the main plot's not interesting. Like you said, once he gets his powers, it just felt like they were kind of rushing to the finish line after that. And it's interesting that you say this movie was shot on film, and I could be misremembering. I've only seen this movie once, and this was like in 2012. I don't remember it looking very good,
Uh oh,
and I could
I
be misremembering.
there we go. Um, so Bunny Logic, first Thor is at B minus right now, maybe C plus. We haven't decided yet. We're gonna get into user input and viewer questions later. Right now we're just putting them on the board, and then we're gonna decide from
Yeah,
there really what we feel.
yeah.
Um, we both kind of agreed. If you're just hopping in, we both agreed that Thor is underrated in a lot of ways. It does some things really well, and it does some things really poorly. The side
It's
characters, like
better
you
than I
said,
expected.
the romance. Um, I also just realized that our music crapped out as soon as I switched to this view,
No, I didn't even
and
know there was music.
there, whatever. It's the first episode. It'll be better next time. I don't care. We had some chill music, but yeah.
That's
So
okay.
if you rewatch this, you're gonna be confused because there's gonna be music, then there won't be. Then it'll be back again, but it might have ads because I had to use a different way of doing it. Anyway, this movie, I want to say that Captain America 1. I don't really want to say D plus. I kind of want to say C
I'd
minus.
say C. I think C minus. Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, I think it's kind of forgettable, and for the longest time, I didn't really like that character of Captain America because of this movie. So it kind of like it failed in the way that Iron Man didn't fail, and that Iron Man took a character that I didn't care about and made me care about him. This movie took a character that I was intrigued by and cared about from Avengers. It made me care less about him because of the movie was not good. So yeah, it's kind of a shame. They redeemed it later on, but yeah, I think Captain America, that first one, is pretty mediocre.
Yeah, it's it's pretty bland. Yeah, Bunny Logic. The music. As soon as I switched to this tier list view, we lost music. So I think that's when you hopped on. So, and next week will be even better because, by the way, next week we have to pre-record our episode, so it'll air live at 8, but it'll
Yes.
be pre-recorded. That'll be way better
Yes.
because we won't have to deal with things on the fly because it'll be pre-recorded. But
Yeah, we'll have a chance to kind of iron out some of the technical issues and be a little bit more streamlined when we do this in the future.
luckily, we're saving, in my opinion, the best for last. I'm gonna let you take the lead on Avengers.
Avengers. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it is the best,
Oh
but I
no,
would
we're
say
gonna disagree hard on this one, aren't we?
I think it is. I've grown to respect the Avengers a lot. I think it does some things really well. I think it does other things not so well. I personally like Iron Man more than I like Avengers, and I'll kind of go into it a little bit. Um, So just to kind of like contextualize things, I think one thing that's worth noting is that when this movie came out, um, you still had the Dark Knight kind of elevated to this role as being like one of the greatest superhero movies ever made, if not one of the best movies ever made. And to me, that set like a bar of what I expected out of like a hyped event superhero movie. And then Avengers came out, and it was, you know, ambitious because you have all you know, this crossover and, you know, the idea of it. You know, I have a lot of respect for that. It's something I've grown to appreciate more as I've gotten older. But I remember going into the first Avengers movie on premiere night and being like kind of underwhelmed. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't love it. Um,
Oh wow,
I
we're
liked the
gonna hard we're
crossover
gonna hard
aspects of it.
disagree on this one.
Yes. See that we'll see. I think another thing worth noting is, you know, for comic book fans, that's something that they've been clamoring for a long time, was like the ultimate crossover. You know, the Avengers. You
Well,
know, and that's definitely your
I'm gonna let you
background.
finish your whole thought, but just to interject, my love of this movie has literally nothing to do with the comics. Like,
Okay,
um,
that's
I could
that's fair.
like it. I'll just put that first, even though I'm the resident
Okay,
comic guy. Comics are pretty much irrelevant to why I like this movie.
okay. Yeah, I think that's totally fair then. I think what this movie does do well is the banter between the characters. Um, you know, I think it's really well written from that standpoint. I think the plot is kind of whatever. I'm going to be honest, but I get that there's, you know, a lot to juggle, and it's more about those characters coming together, and you know the central conflict isn't as important. But I do think it's kind of cookie cutter. Um, I do like Loki as the villain. That was like the first time I really found that character like interesting and compelling. He's not as interesting in Thor. Um, I liked him as the main villain. He grew on me over time. Visually, I think this movie did not age well. I watched it pretty recently, and I thought it looked really flat. I thought like the color grading was bad. It's just a little bit like murky. The CGI is not good. I think from a visual standpoint, this is like maybe one of the worst in
Oh
phase one.
no!
Yeah, I think visually it's not great.
Oh
There's
no!
some good stuff in it. There are some good shots. There's a few shots that stand out in my mind, like when they're in the forest, things like that. But like overall, I don't think this movie looks great. It kind of reminds me of like Spider-Man: Homecoming from a visual standpoint. Um, but I think the thing that is the most important that it does nail is those characters coming together, interacting with each other, teaming up. Um, and that's like the heart of the movie. You know, that's the very purpose and the title of the movie. So I think the most important thing it nails, but it's everything else surrounding it that is not as great. So me, I'd put it like B plus or A minus.
No!
Yeah,
So
I'll say A minus. I'll
Avengers is
say A minus.
Avengers is S plus for me. I put it top 5, maybe top 10 MCU. I'm gonna go
You
into
go ahead.
why.
Okay.
So first off, the script of this movie is near perfect. It has the best dialogue probably in any of the MCU films. The dialogue in this movie is so good, and it's delivered so well. The characters are so fleshed out and well written.
I'll agree.
Um, I love I love how corny this movie is, and it's so intentional. Like, well, whatever you feel about Joss Whedon, whatever. He's an amazing writer, and he's a fantastic director, and I just love all of the moments between the characters in this film. When I saw this movie in theaters, I I saw this movie midnight premiere on a school night. So I saw it before school, and I went into school like 3 hours later.
Same.
And it was like the best night of my life. I loved this movie so much, and every time I watch it, I like it more because I noticed details that I'd never noticed before. Um,
Same.
the only visual thing I don't like that it's in 16:9. I don't like movies in 16:9 because they look like TV shows. But I love how much it captures the 80s like Saturday morning cartoon look. Like, it's intentional. It's supposed to look like that. The whole point of Avengers is it's trying to capture that like Silver Age humor and that corniness of the superheroes, but balancing that with the more serious scenes like the forest fight and the death of Phil Coulson. And I just think it balances all of that really, really well. and the action is really well done. Not all the time, but it has such clever action set pieces. Yeah, the CG is from 2012. You know, it looks like 2012 CG, and it perhaps has a little too much CG. But the script is just so clever. There's so many clever moments. Each character has a moment to shine and show
Yeah,
their unique personality in a way
definitely
that
true.
most Marvel movies aren't able to do. And there's so many lines that I just love from this film. Like every character is able to be kind of boiled down to who they are in this film, whether it be the fact that Cap is a man from another time. Like that's used not only for humor but for drama. Natasha
Yeah.
is a cunning spy who's kind of emotionally distant, and that's used for humor and for drama. Like it the way that Joss Whedon in a movie that's what an hour and 40 something minutes long is able to kind of flesh out every character and their relationships with each other. We're able to see the relationship blossom between Clint and Nat. We're able to see the relationship, uh, like the rivalry between Cap and Tony. That even that is shown in the film and well written. The relationship between Nick Fury and all the Avengers. The fact that Nick Fury blows up a Falcon, not a Falcon, a like a Raptor plane just to save everyone. The beautiful like cinematography of Tony flying up into the wormhole to save everyone. Like it's just such a good movie. Every scene feels so well placed. Like it's maybe the best edited MCU film. Like just the way that the pacing when we it has like that Saturday morning intro where like we meet Nick Fury and he's like, all that crap happens and he's like, we gotta assemble the team and then title crawl, Avengers. It's so thought out. It feels like Joss Whedon was the perfect choice to make the Avengers film, where he knew exactly what he wanted to do with every shot and every scene. And it's sad that you don't feel the same way, but I just think it's S+ for me. I think it's the only MCU film that I'd say I almost have no issues with. Like it's a perfect movie, virtually.
I think you make an incredibly good case for it, and I do agree with most, if not all, of what you said. But I guess it just doesn't resonate with me in the same way. To me, and I think at the time when I saw it, and that's why I've grown to appreciate the movie more
Like
as I've
you
gotten
didn't
older.
lose your absolute mind when when uh Bruce Banner said, "That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry." Like the framing of that shot is so good, and just like the interpolation between him going into the CG model and just the way it's framed, it's so good. Like it just feels like every shot is meticulously planned out. Where it just
It's definitely a good movie, and I think, like I said, coming off like the coattails of like the Dark Knight and that setting a bar for me, I think at the time that was an unfair comparison, probably. Um, and so, like to me, the corniness and the campiness was like not something that I really vibed with at that time. But as I've gotten older, like you said, the Saturday morning cartoon feel, I've come to appreciate that more. I think it's maybe
like
because the
it's
other MCU
intentional.
movies,
It isn't accidental
yeah,
corny.
yeah,
Because
no, you're
like I
right,
said, Captain America 1 is bad corny. That's real.
yeah,
That's not, to me. Avengers is so perfect in what it's trying to do because it's like the most intentional. Like everything is so meticulously planned, and to me it checks every box it's trying to reach. Like I just can't compare it to the Dark Knight because they're just completely different types
yeah,
of
no, they
films.
are. I agree.
I would say the Dark Knight is probably a better movie. Um, but I might say the Avengers is like a better edited film. It might even be a better script. No, Dark Knight's better script. But
They're tonally so different.
yeah,
I think had I seen it in a vacuum, I probably would have liked it more the first time I saw it. And like I said, as I've watched it more over the years and revisited it and grown to appreciate the ambition of it and the scope of it, I've grown to appreciate that film more and more. Um, and I I do like it. I don't think it's perfect. I do think it has some issues,
all right. Well,
and I will concede that I think it definitely is an A tier, but I wouldn't put it in S tier. There's other Marvel movies that I would put in S tier, and for me, the original Avengers just isn't one of them for me. But
I
that's
t- to me
subjective.
to me the MCU has a very small S tier amount, and to me, Avengers is the first that's on there. I think to me, each phase has like one movie that goes in S. Phase 3 might have two, but
I will compromise with you. If we can move up Iron Man to S tier,
I'll allow
you
it.
know,
I'm gonna allow it. Two S
because
tiers. I allow it.
what I will say earns the Avengers place on the S tier, if I'm going to concede, is the sheer
Is
ambition of it,
it
the
could have been
meticulous
awful.
planning.
The
Yeah, it
Avengers
could have been
could have
awful.
been so bad. It
Yeah,
could
and
have
it's
been an
not.
absolute mess.
And you make a good case for it, and that it does such a great job of juggling all the characterization, and it is a really streamlined script. It's not boring. It's not a boring movie. It's really well paced. That's part of why it's not very long. It's well paced. Um, I think the things that just like hurt it for me, like I guess some of the corniness I don't appreciate as much, but like I get where it's coming from, and then visually I think it's just like very blah. But I again, that's not like the most important aspect of this movie is the visuals.
There's only one God, Doctor, and he doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I do like that line. Yeah, so yeah, I'll concede. I think that's a fair compromise.
All right, I'll allow it.
Okay.
I'll allow it if it means I get to have Avengers in S tier. I'll allow Iron Man
Okay.
in there.
I think that's fair, and I think I would probably be outnumbered if I were to have this conversation in a group of 20 people. I think some people would agree with me that it belongs in A tier, but there's also a lot of people that would agree with you and say it belongs in S tier, and I don't think anyone's necessarily wrong for saying that it's an S tier film. It just isn't to me personally, but looking at it objectively, I think it's a fair ranking for it.
So I guess we're gonna give this a second look as we are at each phase. How do you feel about the C region? I do enjoy Thor, but I feel like maybe a C plus is a better grade than a B.
I think it's significantly better than Iron Man 2 and Captain America. It was
All right.
better than I expected because I
Yeah, I
expected
think-
to put it in C or maybe even D, but I was like, wow, this movie actually does some things pretty well. Like I enjoyed it. I was like a little bit pleasantly surprised by it, not super pleasantly surprised by it, but it was better than I expected, which wasn't much. So I think I'm gonna say B minus for it.
I think B minus is fair. For these two, I think these are right. So I guess the big question is Hulk D?
It's E. You can put it in F if you want. I don't know.
I'll
F would be,
concede on
what
E
would we say
minus.
is F? Yeah.
F to me, F is like Iron Man. Oh, we won't get into it. Oh, spoilers. We'll save it for the next episode.
I need to rewatch that one before I can give an opinion on it.
I guess we can quickly get into, viewer opinions. I know Bunny Logic.
Yeah, let's see what-
You were kind of
let's see what other
confused
people
about
say.
first Thor at B. Bunny Logic, what do you feel about Thor? You can't wait to see how Ragnarok will be ranked. Listen, spoilers. We can't give it all away in the first episode. We need subs.
That's true.
So yeah, Bunny
No.
Logic. We're only doing phase 1 tonight. Next week we're gonna do phase 2, and then the week after that we'll do phase 3. Thor is C or lower. It's tough. When I look at this tier list, so each phase we're gonna add more to this tier list, and we're gonna reorder from there. I can see Thor going into C plus based on other movies, but I think for now it can sit in B minus. I don't think it's really that bad. I think it's very bland a lot of the time,
Yeah.
but it's not bad. Cap is borderline
Maybe it's
B.
recency bias. Maybe it's
Sorry,
recency
no.
bias.
I think
for me.
Iron Man 2 is better than Cap 1.
No, I agree. Iron Man 2 is better than Captain America 1. Captain America is just maybe I need to rewatch it, but I remember not really liking that movie. And
So
I
Bunny
remember
Logic
I watched
says
it
they
a couple
they
years
love what
ago.
they did with Skinny Rogers. I agree. I think the
Yeah, I like
effects in
that
that
part.
are amazing, but that
Yeah,
effects
for
don't
the
make a
time
movie.
especially.
Like to me, effects don't make a movie. That doesn't, that's almost irrelevant. Obviously, effects
I'll
can
give-
be awesome, but it doesn't make it a better movie.
I'll give you my justification for ranking Thor above those other two. I think Thor has like a pretty clearly defined arc. As a character, he starts off really brash
That
and arrogant,
that
and he's
saves the
very
movie
much
from
humbled.
being C.
Yeah, he's very much humbled by the end of the movie, and his dynamic with Sir Anthony Hopkins and Tom Hiddleston is those actors have such great chemistry together. Whereas there's nothing like that in Captain America or Iron
I think
Man
what I
2.
appreciate about Thor in Phase 1 is it's way different from the other movies.
It
it's-
is
and not in a bad
great
way.
world building too.
it showed that it was. I'd say Thor maybe isn't all that great, but it's really important in the way that it sets up that the MCU can be almost multi-genre.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, it's not bad. Again, I think once we get to phase 2, it's probably gonna drop to C. I think so, but I think for
I
now
think
B
that's fair.
minus is fair. If we're just looking at the phase 1, I think B
Yeah,
minus is fair.
yeah, yeah. That's my justification for putting it
Oh
where I
no,
did.
we agree. Bunny Logic. So Bunny Logic says the story's great, but the cinematography's bad. Um, I agree
Yeah,
completely. I think the cinematography in Thor is terrible. I hate the Dutch
yeah,
angles. There's way too
yeah.
many of
That's
them.
yeah, that's annoying. The
But then
villain, the
it's
giant robot
it's
guy, is like
it's
whatever.
such a weird movie because sometimes the cinematography is brilliant. Like
Yeah,
there's some
yeah.
really good sweeping shots and some great action shots. Like when they're driving in the SUV at night, like that shot is really awesome. But the Dutch angles ruin this film. It's I don't understand what Kenneth Branagh was thinking. I don't understand it.
What else has he directed?
He's directed a bunch of good stuff. He made a really good live action Cinderella. He made some good Shakespeare stuff like Hamlet. He made a new movie called Belfast, which I heard is really good. I still haven't seen it. He made uh, the Agatha Christie one, Murder on the Orient Express.
I see.
He can do a lot of different things. I like his films, but yeah, I don't know what he was thinking with the Dutch angles in that film.
Yeah, I
It,
think.
that movie gives me a headache.
Yeah, yeah. The Dutch angles got on my nerves too. I think it's a common criticism. It had like some visual style to it though,
Is there a
which I
G
think
tier
is
Bunny Logic? No. So it goes S through F and then haven't watched.
yeah, which I there's only the only ones I haven't watched before Thor are some of the later ones. And I'm gonna make an effort to watch them, or I'm going to watch them before we
You've
talk
got a
about them.
week,
So
so
I
I'm
don't know
sure
if
you'll be fine.
yeah, I don't know if we'll ever put anything there unless like I just forget. In which case I'll be like, oh, I forgot to watch this.
Well, I guess we'll
So
peek at
that's
Phase 2. We'll see if there's any you haven't
yeah,
seen. Because
yeah.
Phase 2, I do want to talk about the shows as well.
I think there is one I haven't seen.
Because personally, I'm going to consider the Netflix show as part of this, especially now with Spider-Man doing its
Yeah,
thing. So I'm going to
yeah.
include them. So Phase
We
2
might
is
as well.
Phase 2 is Iron Man 3, Thor 2, Cap 2, Guardians, Age of Ultron, Ant-Man.
I'm not seeing Ant Man.
All right, so that's your goal. You got to watch Ant-Man.
Okay.
I've seen them all and the shows. I think the shows came out. Let me see when the shows came out.
I've not seen all the shows, and I will not have time to rewatch them. So
That's
I've
fine. I
seen
guess
I've seen all of Daredevil.
that's the only one that matters.
Um,
And Jessica Jones.
I've s-
So
I've
Daredevil is part of
seen
Phase 2.
yeah, I've seen about half of Jessica Jones.
And so is Jessica Jones season 1.
Okay, so that's it.
All
Luke
right.
Cage
Well,
and the other ones aren't part of that.
Luke Cage I think is Phase 3 maybe.
Okay, well, that's fine. Then I've seen enough to. I mean, I've seen all of Daredevil, and I've seen like half of Jessica Jones. So
So Bunny Logic agrees with us that Hulk is bad. So Bunny Logic
yeah,
Hulk might drop into F as we get into the other phases. For now it's E minus because I don't think it's that bad. Like it is watchable. To me F is for things that I never want to watch again. I don't really want to
that's
watch
well,
Hulk again, but I could.
yeah. I mean, I guess I could. It's not terrible. I think terrible would be like inept. It's just it's painfully boring and cookie cutter. It's not that it's
Like I
inept.
said, it's E minus for now. It might drop into F as we
Yeah,
get into the other phases,
I
but
think F is more reserved for like I said, ineptitude. Whereas I wouldn't say a Hulk
F for
is
me
like
is
poorly
something that's
made.
either really, really, really badly made to the point where it's not fun to watch, or it makes me angry because of something,
Okay,
which
I
the
see.
audience will find out in phase 2.
Yeah, I see. I see what you're getting at.
So I guess that's it for the tier list tonight. We don't have a whole lot of viewers, but we'll try to get some viewer questions. So if anybody's in the Twitch chat right now, if you have any questions for us, any thoughts you want to share, now is the time. So if you have any questions, just pop them in.
Yes, or if
Bunny
you
Logic
have
says, I mean, I guess if my
arguments.
Blu-ray DVD internet library lit on fire and somehow that movie survived, I'd watch it.
Yeah, yeah, that's
No,
kind of
yeah,
how
I
I feel.
agree. I don't. When I rewatch the MCU, I don't watch Hulk. I just skip to Avengers for Hulk
No,
because Mark Ruffalo is a way better Hulk.
yeah, I mean, I don't really consider it part of the MCU if I'm being honest. Just the post-credit scene
Yeah, it's
I
borderline.
mean, it was like
MCU.
shoehorned into the MCU. Yeah, it's borderline at best, and nothing of consequence happens in it.
Like I said, E
It's
minus for now. It'll probably hit F by the time we're done.
yeah, yeah.
We're being nice to it right now, only because Phase One doesn't have that many movies.
I also haven't rewatched it. I've only seen it the one time, so I'm just
I've only
going
seen
off
it the one
memory.
time too.
I guess it's worth mentioning for me. I'm going off memory for Captain. No, I've rewatched Captain America kind of recently, but I've not rewatched Iron Man 2. I've not rewatched Incredible Hulk. I've seen Iron Man enough times. I've seen Avengers enough times. I saw Captain America most recently, like probably 5 years ago. I remember it well enough, and then I saw it for the first time, like maybe a month after the first Avengers came out. So I've seen it twice. Um, I've not seen any of these movies like multiple times except for Iron Man and Avengers.
I think I've seen all of them at least twice. But Bunny Logic says, "Cheers, glad I could stop by. Thanks for checking us out, Bunny Logic.
Yes, thank you, Bunny Logic.
Fan of the channel. They have their own channel as well. They're a husband-wife duo. They stream. I put a shout out, so if
Nice.
anybody wants to check them out. But yeah, if you don't have any questions for us, I think we're gonna wrap it up. That's a good time. It's been an hour and 20. You can check out our show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Like I said, next week is going to be pre-recorded, so we won't be doing any questions or anything. But it'll still be a good show. And then the week after that, we're gonna not be pre-recorded. We'll be back to live. So next week is going to be a Phase 2 tier list. Phase 2 is obviously longer, so it'll take us longer. We might also discuss a film. I think we're going to try to talk about one film, at least one film every episode. So next week it'll be Phase 2 and whatever. And then episode 3 will be Phase 3, and then that'll be it for MCU. And we'll be back to just talking about all kinds of movies. We're not obviously
Sounds
not a
good.
Marvel-only channel or comic-only channel. We talk about all kinds of films. Both of us like all kinds of different stuff. So, D-Rock, where can the people find you? Plug your stuff.
The people can find me at the Daddy D-Rock on Twitter. Make sure you put the "the" in front of it. And you can also find me at Daddy D-Rock on YouTube, Daddy D-Rock. And
all right.
yeah, I make videos about just an array of topics.
And for me, I don't really need to explain it. You're here where I am. I'm here on this channel. This is my channel. I'm building a YouTube channel for this where we're going to put episodes on. I'm probably going to have this episode on our new YouTube channel tomorrow because I have tomorrow off work. So I'm going to spend that day building the channel, and this should be on there. And then that'll be it. So, as always, thanks for watching. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next week at 8 p.m. Tuesday. Be there.
See you guys. Test. I think it went well too. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah, I think so too. I'll plug it next time in preparation. Yeah, it looked good to me. I think. I mean, technical issues are gonna happen like the first, couple of times. We'll get it ironed out. Yeah, we had some questions and some interaction, so I think that's cool. I enjoyed it. I think we mostly agreed on everything. I think the only thing that we agreed on was Avengers, but that's kind of what made it like